Good evening. My name is Robin. I'm the Programs and Advocacy Manager here at Inherited Cancers Australia. And I am coming to you from beautiful Ngunnawal country here in Canberra. And I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm coming from and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So you will have seen the recent name change and rebranding from originally Pink Hope. We are now Inherited Cancers Australia, and I'm really excited to be doing our first Instagram live chat with everyone. And the name change, of course, many of you will know, we just wanted to become a bit more inclusive of the wider community, so including men. And we also wanted to make sure that we could include more people with different gene mutations. Of course, I acknowledge that we're going to continue to, the vast majority of our community will continue to be those with breast and ovarian cancers. That's because some of those gene mutations are the most prevalent, and also those gene mutations have the highest risk of cancer. So we know that you guys will continue to be part of our community. So today marks the beginning of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I know that that can be a little bit tricky for many people in our community. So we thought we'd do something kind of positive tonight and have a chat about some research that's relevant to BRCA1 gene mutation carriers. So I'm just going to get our speaker to come in, or our guest rather. Getting back to it. So we're really lucky to have advances in treatment and care for people at risk of and with cancer. Science and research have such a big impact on our community, so we thought it would be really great to hear about a potentially game-changing international trial that's available to women with a BRCA1 gene mutation here in Australia. Oh, Geoff has joined, which is awesome. So tonight we are really privileged to hear from Professor Geoff Lindeman as we discuss the BRCA-P trial. And we'll also hear from Elle, who was a participant on the trial. And, obviously it's always really good to hear from someone that's got lived experience. So we're really grateful to Elle for sharing her experience. And Geoff, I'm going to read out a little bio. I'm just going to embarrass you a little bit, but I'm going to paraphrase because all of those big words are not going to sit well with me on a Tuesday night. So Professor Geoff Lindeman, welcome. You're a clinician scientist at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, or WEHI, a medical oncologist in breast cancer at the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre and the Royal Melbourne Hospital. Geoff's studies around breast cancer have led him to identify what I'm calling a cheeky cell that gives rise to breast cancer in women with a BRCA1 gene mutation. And this essentially led into the international BRCA-P trial, which is a breast cancer prevention study. So welcome, Geoff. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, Robin, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about what I think is a very exciting study.
Yeah, great. Well, we're very pleased to have you. So I guess starting off, can you just tell us a little bit about the BRCA-P study or the trial?
It's actually the first international prevention study for women with a faulty BRCA1 gene. So I think that's a real positive to start this October. It's really arises from our research that was aimed at understanding culprit cell that gives rise to breast cancer for women with a faulty BRCA1 gene. And our group discovered that a few years ago, and we found that it was possible to switch off that cell even before cancer happened. So the BRCA-P study is really a prevention study that has now gone to the clinic globally to see if we can actually prevent breast cancers before they arise, if you like, for women with a faulty BRCA1 gene.
So the goal of this study, you're trying to prevent breast cancer so that women who have a BRCA1 gene mutation don't need to, or potentially can consider that as another option to a mastectomy. Is that?
Oh, that's right. So I think the most important thing that any woman with a faulty BRCA1 gene can do is to, serious screening at least annually by the age of 30. And that is actually the thing which has been shown to save lives because early detection makes a big difference. Many people opt a percentage of women opt for preventive mastectomies, and the hope really is to find an agent that is safe and effective, so that people can either delay or even remove the need for a mastectomy as a breast cancer prevention agent. And we think with our discovery, that's something that we can certainly see as a real hope here.
Yeah, great. I can see lots of people joining. We've got about 20 people at the moment. Someone's just said that yeah, they did have a mastectomy. Like, you know, obviously, many people with the faulty gene mutation. So, how long has the study been going for, Jeff? I know that you're kind of trying to, you know, encourage people to participate. How long has it been happening for?
So the study first opened in Austria and Australia, unfortunately, just before the pandemic hit. Tried to start getting going in 2020, but it's been open since then, and things have substantially improved in terms of recruitment. It's opened globally now across 7 countries. That includes Spain, Austria, Israel, Germany, the US. So all of the global sites are now open. Importantly, the study will likely stop accruing new participants at the end of the year. So it's anyone thinking about going on study will hopefully do that by the end of this year. But of course, the study itself continues to roll on.
Yeah,
We're,
great.
we're
Jeff, someone's just asked, and I'm sure we'll get to it later when we talk about how you can participate in the study, but I presume you can't participate in the study if you've already had your preventative mastectomy?
That's right. So what we're really looking for are healthy women between ages 25 to 55 who have not had preventive surgery, because the idea of prevent cancer, so this is a real world test of whether or not this drug denosumab would offer that hope.
Yeah.
Now, diminishing mastectomy, of course, it's incredibly effective, but it's not for everyone, and some women obviously need to think about the right timing for mastectomy. I see
Yeah.
this as that can help delay or even prevent.
Yep, yep. And so tell us, what does it involve? What if we all at the end of this discussion went and signed up and got more information about it? What would a participant go through?
Whatever they're doing now is incredibly important. They need to maintain awareness and report any lumps. They'd need to keep having annual checks, which are usually clinical, and screens, which often for a BRCA1 carrier will include breast MRI or a sophisticated mammogram, or both. And so those need to continue on an annual. But on top of that, the study simply is a phase 3 study, which means it's it's really looking for efficacy and safety. And so that means that patients would be randomized to receive either denosumab or placebo injections every 6 months on top of what they're regularly happening. They also, at the time that they're seen, would have some research bloods taken, quality of life questionnaire to look at their own quality of life, cancer anxieties and fears. And we're also going to be monitoring bone health, which is something that can be a concern for, perhaps we'll talk about shortly, who undergo an early menopause because they have the tubes and ovaries.
Yep. And so just on that point, it is okay to be on the study if you've had your tubes and ovaries removed?
So we hope that women have their tubes and ovaries removed at the appropriate time and age, and for a BRCA1 carrier, as they're approaching 40, and you know, so the accrual ages are between 25 and 50.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you sort of touched on it a little bit. So it would be you join up and you're on the study. And so what happens is every 6 months you would have an injection of either you'd get the placebo or you'd get that denosumab. And then.
That's right. But it's double blinded, which means the doctors don't know, the patients don't know. And whilst that sounds a little bit crazy, it's the best way to get a drug to the clinic. You compare it to standard care, which is rigorous clinical checks and screens to that plus something new, and that's the drug. And it's the best way that we can actually know that any side effects we're seeing are really denosumab, or any positive effects on bone are due to denosumab, and also, that preventing how many cancer events we're preventing. And the primary goal is to prevent breast cancer, but we're also going to be looking at ovarian cancer and other types of.
And so tell us a little bit about the drug denosumab. What's it used for? You've sort of talked a little bit about osteoporosis.
So denosumab is a drug that's actually been in the clinic for years and is well understood. It's a drug, it's an antibody which targets something called rank ligand, but it's used to treat osteoporosis, that's thin bones, and we're using a dose which is very similar to the osteoporosis dose. It's also used to treat breast cancer that has spread to the bones for patients, and that's at a much higher dose, so it's every month. And there one can sometimes see side effects. Actually, the osteoporosis dose is and side effects are well understood. So we're planning, well, we're giving it every 6 months for those patients or participants who are receiving, end up receiving the study drug.
Great. A few people have actually commented. Someone said, what's the drug called? So it's denosumab. Sorry. And then someone else pointed out that it's Prolia.
Yeah, Prolia. The dose, the drug, the commercial name of the drug that's used for osteoporosis. Xgeva is its name when it's given for breast cancer that's spread to the bones. But they're all denosumab, and it's a humanized antibody that switches off something called rank ligand, and we know that that's an incredibly important signaling pathway in this culprit cell that can lead to breast cancer. And
yeah, okay.
You here is also, people have looked at drugs like tamoxifen as breast cancer prevention agents, but they actually have only ever been shown to decrease the risk of hormone receptor positive breast cancers, and women with BRCA1 mutations are more likely to get hormone negative or triple negative cancers. And so this is really an important way of trying to switch off these really hard to treat and prevent breast cancers.
Yeah, interesting. Someone's asked a little bit about, sorry, you mentioned potentially some risk reduction for ovarian cancer. Can you talk a bit about that
Look, it's
with denosumab, or too early?
Moment. We know that BRCA1 carriers, of course, a high risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer, and so we'll also be monitoring early events such as the things that we might see in tubes or it's not clear from the research yet whether or not for that, but it's of course something we really keen to monitor as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so
as a breast cancer prevention agent, this plays out. Yeah.
Okay. And does denosumab have any side effects that people should consider when they're thinking about signing up for this trial?
So I think that's important. It's actually, as I mentioned, likely to be very well tolerated, and our experience, people who've gone on study, is that patients are not having issues. At the higher doses and with prolonged therapy, which is more, there can rarely be side effects with the jaw. There's something called osteonecrosis, and that can often be seen in people for dental and are having sort of significant work like an extraction. So actually, we're recommending people see their dentist before they go on study and just kind of have a checkup as an assurance to make sure that it's going to be safe. Because denosumab can improve bone health. It's also important that people maintain their calcium and vitamin D levels because it can drop the calcium levels if they're already low. So we're encouraging people to take vitamin D and calcium supplements, which is something that many people take anyway, but something which is helpful, we think, for people who are on the study.
Yeah, great. Linny has actually, who's listening, has actually said that she's been taking it for over 1.5 years for osteoporosis, and she said it's really easy, simple injection, and it doesn't hurt. So that's good feedback.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no,
Linny.
all subcutaneous injection like a diabetic has to suffer
Yeah,
pretty much um, just every 6 months, and literally a small price, I think, to pay for something that could be beneficial.
yeah,
And of course, the Prolia dose that's being used, um, that's half the dose that we're using on the study. But yeah, so we're expecting that the safety profile will be fairly similar.
yeah. You touched on a little bit earlier how we should, or women should continue to do the screening that they're currently undertaking to manage their risk. Um, are there, when you're on this study, do we continue seeing, or do women continue seeing their specialist and doing all that same stuff, or is there anything different?
By the study team, but it's if people want. I mean, obviously, people hopefully build a good relationship with their breast specialists, so that they know, something happens, and so they can continue to do that as well. And then we would access the scans digitally to have that for the study. But we can. It could be a one-stop shop. People are, can join the study at the various around Australia, and do it that way. But of course, they can keep seeing their specialists as well.
Yeah, and actually that was going to be one of my next questions. Obviously, we'll put up a bunch of data and the links to, how you can find more information out about the study, but where can people participate?
Yep. So if they're living in Australia, there are 14 sites currently available, open in every state in Australia, and probably the best way to find out is to look up the breast solution portal on their, using their favourite search engine, and that lists the study sites. There are several open in Sydney and Melbourne, one in Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, and so we've got most of Australia, and Hobart. So we've got most of Australia well covered. Unfortunately, we don't have the northern covered. It's just how the study has to play out.
Yeah. And can you participate if you're on another drug? Like, what if you were on tamoxifen, or is there other drugs that might cut you out of being able to participate in the study?
So, having had tamoxifen in the past for up to 3 years or another prevention drug is okay, but we don't want people to have been on something like that for the last 3 months before they go on study, and because we're studying the effect of denosumab, so we don't want to confuse things by people possible prevention agents. Having had denosumab in the past or another bone agent at the same time can also be something that, ineligible for study. But there's actually otherwise a really small list of other drugs that people can be on that are a problem.
Yeah. And if people are thinking about joining, so I imagine the people that are thinking about joining this are probably early 20s. Oh no, well, I mean, I guess there might not be a distinct age bracket because people make whatever decisions they want with their risk management, right?
Yeah,
If
no,
you,
people people have to make different lifestyle decisions as they get older. For, with the BRCA1 faulty gene, there are different issues that come up in ages, and so for a woman who's, for example, currently planning a pregnancy, we, they don't go and study because it's something I didn't mention, but the safety of denosumab with pregnancy hasn't been proven. So we would not, you should not be planning a pregnancy and go on this study,
yeah,
but it is possible on the study and then decide to have a pregnancy, and so people can actually stop the study drug for that period and then go back on the study. We kind of wanted to make it as real world as possible, and of course for a woman who's having their ovaries and tubes out, or already has had that done, this is another opportunity, I think, to to see if it can be a prevention agent, but also, help as a strategy for keeping bones strong.
Yeah, okay, so that's great to know. So if you're thinking, what am I doing with family planning, and what curveballs might life throw at me, it's okay to start the trial, take a break from it for a little bit, and then potentially go back on if something comes up. And
that's right, and that's I guess that's the challenge that we found. Some people, obviously, if they're planning a child, that's the priority. The second thing is people must often wake up every day thinking, well, should I be having a mastectomy or not? Well, it's okay to have those normal thoughts. But if you're actually signed up and planning a very immediate mastectomy, then we wouldn't go and study. But if it's something that's thinking about even years from now, I think going on the study would be quite reasonable.
yeah, okay.
Always opt out, of course. It's the participants, the ones who can have the say as to whether they continue a study or not.
Yeah, so no one's ever going to be cranky at you if you start the study and then things change and you decide to pull out. So that's good to know.
Mention it, but itself for the treatment period is for 5 years. But of course, we know that the real lived experience of people is that they change their minds. And in fact, we've expected, in the statistics, we've expected a 50% dropout rate, but we're not seeing anything. So we have those choices. I can see Elle's joined. Hi.
I've got one more question for you, and then I'm going to jump in and we'll include you as well. So, and someone's actually asked this on the chat as well. When do you anticipate having results from the study? So you're obviously still taking people on, and that's for a 5-year period. So are we talking about 10 years or?
A prevention study like this, we're talking 5 to 10 years of before we'll have significant breast cancer prevention. But I'm actually optimistic that within the 5-year period, we would have information on what we call surrogate, because we're looking at things like bone health, breast density, because we know high dense breasts, breast. So we're going to be looking for rust reduction in that. Looking at people's quality of life through questionnaires and bone health. We're actually looking at people's immune well, because we think that denosumab will have a positive effect on the immune system in terms of fight cancers. So all of those things we hopefully will have some information on, over a 5-year period. But this is really something that people are doing, I think, more altruistically for the long term. They may benefit themselves, but I see this as something that's really going to be a generation of the faulty BRCA1 gene.
And I think a lot of us do think that with these faulty genes, we think, oh, what's happening to the next generation? What's coming? So this is really exciting.
Thank you.
And I might get to Elle. So, obviously you can't have these studies without wonderful participants who are just, giving up their time and participating. So thanks, Elle, for coming on tonight and just kind of chatting to us a little bit about your experience on the study. So how did you find it being on the BRCA-P trial?
I actually think it was one of the most valuable things that I've done, for my own health, and it felt really rewarding. I already told Geoff earlier that I just adored my doctor and nurse team who were in charge of me. I felt so well looked after. I felt I had more people on my team with regard to preventative health. And that just really, I don't think I could have got through the last couple of years without them, to be honest. I just can't recommend participating on the study enough.
And the actual, going, seeing the team, having your checkup, and then doing the injection, was that seamless? How did you find that?
It was a little inconvenient. I actually live in the Cameron. And just noted the centres, but Canberra hasn't made it to the list. So I actually would travel down to Melbourne, but that was because I already have family there. So my parents were actually probably quite pleased I came to visit a little bit more often. Aside from that, I think, yeah, it was a pretty seamless, effortless, monthly, well, 6 monthly visit. I was really lucky. I had all my care down at the Peter MacCallum Centre, and so I would organise all of my appointments, like all of my scans and checkups all at the same time, like Geoff recommended, that you can sometimes do that. So that was pretty helpful. And you know, an injection's kind of uncomfortable, but it's certainly not the worst thing that we go through in terms of our preventative health as women. So for the most part, it was really easy.
Oh, that's awesome to know. Did you experience any unexpected negatives from the trial? I mean, I guess you talked about you know, having some really good care.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, they're really good care. One thing that we have already spoken a little bit about is bone health. And so I'm in my early 30s, and bone health certainly wasn't front of mind before this study. I was so kind of distracted by my cancer risk and kind of more immediate issues. And just the fact that, you know, I guess I'd done a little bit of reading on denosumab. I was getting a bone density scan as part of the study. And this realization that, hey, bone density, like, it's quite an important issue for women's health. Participating in the trial really brought that kind of as a front of mind issue. And I'm at an age now where I can really influence my bone health, you know, and just being aware of that, you know, all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh gosh, I need to maybe put some weight training, like add that to my kind of healthcare, because yeah, just how important it is. So, you know, as a result, I probably some lifestyle changes that I hope will kind of look after me, you know, in my future years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you originally were thinking about it, what was your motivation? What made you go, yeah, I am going to give that a crack?
Well, I'm actually guilty. I ghosted the BRCA-P trial people for about 12 months. From saying I would sign up, and so all credit to them for continuing to pursue me. I was at a pretty difficult time in terms of other health stuff, and just felt a little overwhelmed with it. But I am really glad that the BRCA-P team kind of kept getting back in contact to see if this was something that I was willing to do. My motivation, I'm a real nerd. And I am working on a PhD in statistics. So it was kind of exciting for me to be a data point and see kind of what happens in clinical trials from the other side. So that was important. But also I think, you know, when I first found out I had a BRCA1 mutation, I was pretty horrified that kind of the best advice was wait and see or get a preventative mastectomy. Like, that was really confronting for me in the beginning. And you know, I have gone through my preventative mastectomy now, and it took a while to kind of come around to the idea, but I really would like to see better options for women with the genetic mutations. And so the idea of helping contribute to the science was a key factor in deciding to participate.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have any advice for anyone who's thinking of participating?
Do it. I promised I wouldn't give a little lecture on statistical power, but you know, for Geoff and all the other researchers working on this trial, getting as many participants as they can is really important. If we want solid, strong evidence that this works or it doesn't. And when I think about it, you know, the number of women who have a BRCA1 mutation and also fall in this age group, and also, you know, are finished having children or choosing not to have children, you know, like, there's actually not that many of us out there. And I think often those women who've decided to have children, they don't want to delay their mastectomy. So for those of us who do meet the selection criteria to participate, if we do, I think that, you know, we kind of owe it to all of the others on the team to participate and sort of contribute to the science.
Awesome.
I think that's, can I just add, I think that's something that I find curious, or frustrating is probably a better term, because women don't opt to have the mastectomy so up front. And, you know, this is boring as a way of delaying or removing need, and so there are a lot of potential BRCA carriers who could go on the study, and of course, you know, benefit themselves. And a scientific question for carriers. I can see a question there. I don't know if I meant to be but there's a question.
Yes, get on it.
Period. And we're going to continue to monitor people for 5 years. We want to check bone density 1 year after stopping the study drugs, but we also will touch at 3 monthly intervals for 5 years, just to and people don't have to be seen, but it's just touching base to there haven't been any adverse, you know, bone issues, etc. So we really need to study safety and long term.
And I'll just add to that one, Geoff, that yeah, as sort of exiting the trial when I had my preventative mastectomy, I think I also agreed to having my tissue donated to the study as well. So I think if anyone's, you know, having those surgeries, you know, your tissue also contributes.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly valuable. Normally pathologists look at a tiny piece of breast tissues and then throw it in the bin, and it's huge waste, you know, powerful for research, and it's how we, you know, discovered this pathway anyway, about donated tissue from BRCA1 carriers.
Wow. I love science. I love research. And I love that you guys are the smart people doing it. And I'm just happy to engage with the consumers and hopefully get you some more participants on this study. And so as we kind of finish up, I'll just say, so we'll post this Instagram live, and we'll put a few links on there with an email, and we'll also put that link on breast. Geoff spoke about earlier, the breast solution .breastcancertrials.org.au is the website that you can all go to and get a bit more information. But so I guess I'll finish up by saying thank you so much to Geoff. You've had lots of people singing your praises in the comments here, which is lovely. Lots of thanks for doing all the stuff that you do. Elle, thanks for coming on and sharing your experience with it. And yeah, there'll be information on our page, and yeah, share this and watch it again. And there's an email address that everyone can reach out to if you've got any questions about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Elle and the people, you know, really make a big difference going on studies like this. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Geoff. Thanks, Elle. Thanks, everyone, for being in. Lots of thank you. Lots of happy people leaving. So
Bye.
thanks, guys.